Michael Jackson was an eccentric man, allegedly suffering from Peter Pan syndrome and wanted to live like a child whenever he could. Having an immense fortune, he opened up a theme park in his backyard and called it Neverland. He was lonely in his estate and began to allow families to stay in the guest homes. He would wake up and families would be there eating breakfast, and Michael would walk by and they all would smile. In 1993, Michael Jackson was sued by a boy named Jordan Chandler and his father. Jordy's parents were divorced, and his father was reportedly angry that his son and his ex-wife were spending so much time with Michael Jackson. He was money hungry and admitted on many occasions that he hated the famous pop star.
This man is going to be humiliated beyond belief. He will not believe what's going to happen.
The boy initially refused to testify against Michael, saying that nothing sexual had happened between them. The boy would later go on the stand to say that something sexual had in fact happened to him, but in between those periods, Jordy would have been given a sedative hypnotic called sodium amytal, a drug famous for causing false memories in patients. The judge would not accept his testimony because of this, and nearing the end of the trial, Jordy himself began to have doubts whether any sexual encounter between him and Jackson had ever occurred. It was at that moment he decided to emancipate himself from his parents, and has not spoken to his mother or father since the trial. Having experienced such guilt for having planted false memories in his son's mind, his father shot himself in 2009. After this case, numerous children, many who had never even met Jackson, began filing false claims against the famous singer, similar to the one in 1993.
He started just touching our stomach and things, he'd rub our stomach and then he'd get lower, and then that's when I started saying, what are you doing? He said, it's okay, don't worry, your bodies are meant to be touched.
The boy finally broke down. He admitted that he and Rodney Allen had made up the whole story.
And all of these were found to be lies. Each person who came forward about Michael Jackson was cross-examined and found to be liars and giving false testimony. Even his own sister, LaToya Jackson, accused him, and then later took back her accusations, explaining that she was forced to say those things by her abusive husband. She reported that her brother later forgave her, and that they were on good terms. Even with all the baseless accusations, Michael remained exuberant throughout each of the trials and never once was found guilty of lying in his own accounts. He continued to be heavily investigated, and despite his 2 acquittals, he was still dragged through the mud by every major media outlet. The FBI investigated Michael for 10 years with a fine-tooth comb, checking into every aspect of Michael's life and found nothing. There was not a trace of evidence over 10 years of investigation that could suggest that Michael Jackson was a pedophile. For every person that had come forward and was found under criminal court jurisdiction to be lying that Michael Jackson had touched them, there were 2 or 3 children who had stated the complete opposite, that Michael had only mentored and been loving to the children in a completely non-sexual manner. 2 of said children were Wade Robson and James Safechuck, 2 boys who testified on many occasions with conviction that Michael had never touched them.
Yeah, started dancing when I was 2, and then won a dance competition when I was 5 that Michael was holding sort of all over the world doing his tour, and it was like a dance-alike contest like him.
Right.
I won that, and then the prize
and
was
then you moved into the ramp.
Easy, Dean.
No, you did not move into the ramp. No. Are you still friendly with Michael?
Yeah, we still talk every couple months, catch up.
You do, really?
Yeah.
Well, what's he like?
What's he like? He's a good guy.
He's a good guy?
Yeah.
Show me where he touched you. Nothing ever like that? No nonsense, no shenanigans? But he's a weird guy, you have to admit, right?
You know what, at the end of the day, it's everybody's got something weird about him. Everybody's got something strange about him.
Yeah, but some people more than others.
Yeah. True. At the end of the day, all I'm here, it's you may not like, you may have weird thoughts about him.
At the end of the day.
Why don't you let me talk for a minute? No. But it's as long as people don't forget, how talented he is and what he's done for the music industry. Think whatever you want about him.
With Michael, just had a wonderful relationship. I learned so much from him as an artist and as a kind human being. And it's my goal to try and just continue as much as I can in my own little world, that legacy. I'm not sure about being a part of the tribute. I've heard about it, and I'm excited about it either way, whether I'm involved in it or not.
In 2013, they decided to say the opposite and were reportedly coming clean about their sexual encounters with Michael. Anybody who has seen the Finding Neverland documentary knows about every shocking detail that these two men provided for the cameras. Who could lie about such encounters? Talk brazenly about child blowjobs, sex in bathrooms, movie theaters, and even train stations, between a man and a child. What's most disturbing is that they don't seem at all put off by their accounts.
And I remember my penis swelling up because I did it so much that first time. I must have done it a few times. And so I remember dipping my penis in warm water. Michael filled the cup up with water so I could pee. It was hard to pee. I don't have any unpleasant memories other than not being able to pee. It felt like you were bonding in a way. The tour was the start of this sexual, couple relationship.
He was with Michael 24/7.
Michael would like it if you would bend over and spread open your cheeks. That's what he liked. And then he would masturbate. He liked if I rubbed his nipples. The movie theater had these two private rooms. I have big glass windows so you can see the theater. And so we would have sex in those rooms. That was a bit dangerous. There's a bit of excitement there. What's not to like, right?
In fact, they both explain on multiple occasions throughout the film that they actually enjoyed said encounters, and they were reportedly in love with the man who was molesting them. As James Safechuck puts it, it was like they were dating. The grandmother states with a smile on her face that Michael was just like a child himself.
We went to his bedroom and sat on his bed and talked to him, and he had a train running around the bed, electric train running around the bedroom, and he was just like a child, yes.
I'd be told that Wade was sleeping, doing sleepovers with Michael and sleeping in his bed, and then you hear stories of, someone accusing him of molesting a child, and holy crap, is that what's happening with my brother? Holy crap, is that what's happening with my brother?
Would a woman really be smiling while talking about the man who repeatedly raped her grandson? So this begs the question, how could two men lie about such things? What absolutely sick mind could do such a thing, and why? The two had filed their claims in 2013, coincidentally the same year that James's mother and father were also being sued, for a reported $840,086. It has already been exposed time and again that every person who came against Michael in a courtroom was after one thing and one thing only: money. Safechuck's testimony in their trial against a dead Michael Jackson was thrown out by the judge for inconsistencies, and also the fact that James was trying to shop a book deal while the trial was taking place. His memoir includes an account that is highly inconsistent as well. These suits generated thousands of pages of court documents, deposition transcripts, witness statements, disclosures, motions, judgments, and that litany of paperwork includes so many contradictions and constantly changing stories. During Robson's attempt for an appeal, he was found to be caught lying under oath repeatedly and so brazenly that the judge ruled that no rational juror could ever believe his story. This has been completely ignored and point-blank refused to be reported on by the media. The documentary, which is supposed to be about Robson's relationship with Michael Jackson, completely neglected to mention that Wade Robson actually had been dating Michael's niece, Brandy Jackson, for 8 years. The two knew each other when they were 9 and were reportedly dating the entire timeline Wade claims he was molested by Michael. James Safechuck reports, with a smile on his face, that he and Jackson would have sex in the train station.
At the train station, there's a room upstairs. And we would have sex up there too. Would happen every day. It sounds sick, but it's kind of like when you're first dating somebody, right? You do a lot of it. So it was very much like that.
But a fun fact is that Safechuck reports that his abuse occurred between the ages of 10 and 14, but that train station was not built until 1994. Oprah Winfrey attempts to make a rebuttal about the claim that Leaving Neverland is completely full of lies by saying this.
Did you ever waver in your beliefs when the documentary director came out and said there was a timeline issue, Michael Jackson didn't have the train station?
You know why I have not wavered? Because I've had girls at my school who were sexually assaulted and abused, and I have never won a case. And the reason I have never won a case is because when you put a girl on the witness stand and she can't remember, was it Thursday or Wednesday, it's automatically discredited. And so when you're in the midst of trauma, terrible things happening to you, you may not remember the exact time. It's why, like, if I hear a noise or something in my house, I'm like, look at the time, because they're going to ask what time. What time is it? Oh my God, what time is it? So if you can't remember the day and the time and the da-da-da-da, everybody's like, well, okay.
I guess it never happened.
Guess it never happened.
The problem is, Oprah, that it isn't the fact that James forgot if it was Monday or Saturday. He seems to have left out 2 entire years of his life and invented completely new locations where he was molested. Many of the people who they claim were abused, including Macaulay Culkin, who repeatedly insists that he was never touched inappropriately, were given no prior warning that they were going to be included in the film. Brett Barnes, in particular, has been absolutely distraught as a result of this documentary. He refutes consistently that Michael Jackson had ever abused him in any way, and is now having tabloid journalists constantly harassing him. It's difficult to put into words how annoying this can actually be for a person. He has people on the internet sending him abusive messages, saying he's covering up for a child molester. The director of Finding Neverland has never given this man an opportunity to reply, and effectively ruined his life. He totally neglected to interview the other people who were claimed in the documentary to be Wade and James' replacement boys. The director is a man by the name of Dan Reed. Dan appeared on an episode of Good Morning Britain in an attempt to defend his documentary. They asked him if he had provided any evidence that the encounters happened other than the testimony by the men themselves.
But I suppose my obvious question, it's a harrowing watch, this. 4 hours of the most searing testimony from these 2 boys and their families. At the end, though, I'm left with the same question I've always been left with Michael Jackson, is that other than them saying this, and they've both said the complete opposite before, in one case, under oath, in a case which actually acquitted Michael Jackson, is other than what they're saying, did you unearth any actual evidence that proves Michael Jackson was a paedophile?
Well, there's masses of corroborating evidence. If you look at the investigations that the LAPD and the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department carried out in 1993 when Jordan Chandler came forth with his accusations, and in 2003 to 2005 when 13-year-old Gavin Arvizo accused Michael of molesting him. So there's masses of eyewitness statements by Neverland staff, by the chambermaid, by the driver, by the cook.
But none of it convicted him.
He claims that there were masses of corroborating evidence in previous investigations, but in actuality, the only evidence the LAPD uncovered were testimonies that were found to be utter lies. One boy was quite literally brainwashed by his father and his psychiatrist, and in that case, the boy did not and does not stand by his admission that Michael molested him. Do people honestly believe that Michael Jackson not only molested children, but molested children with cancer? Because that's who Gavin Arvizio was. Arvizio's family was found to be involved with numerous scams, and that's why the judge threw out his testimony. But even after the trial, Arvizio made no such claims that Jackson touched him, and now that the film is out, he said he wants nothing to do with it.
That's what's happened.
The enormity of the allegations you're making cannot be understated, and you would accept that. And you're basically calling Michael Jackson a serial paedophile.
Yes.
And my only question is that the emphatic denials from so many other people about this mean that there is a question mark here. And I again just say to you, are you 100% sure that your word of these two people is enough to justify calling Michael Jackson a serial paedophile?
I think the corroborating evidence around their accounts is very strong. I've looked at that. I think if you watch the film and you see how their families have just been devastated by what happened. I mean, what mother would go on television and say, I delivered my little boy into the hands of a predatory paedophile, who I thought was my best friend?
And to a certain extent got excommunicated.
Possibly a mother being sued for almost $1 million. And you can see it many times on her face during the documentary that she, nor any of the members of this family, are taking this 100% seriously. We need to understand that there is not a mountain of evidence proving these crimes, as Dan Reed says, but in fact a mountain of evidence that proves otherwise. So now, by seeing that Michael has been tried not once, but 3 times in a criminal court, been heavily investigated by the FBI for 10 years, had numerous documentaries made about him without evidence or proof of the allegations, and these documentaries leave out key aspects of their lives, such as Wade's 8-year relationship with Michael's niece Brandy Jackson, and all of their testimonies contain unforgivable inconsistencies. The train station wasn't even built at the time of the allegations. They were being sued for $1 million at the time of the allegations. We are supposed to believe that these two men finally and conveniently built up the courage to come forward the same year their parents were being sued themselves? Well, despite what these 3 men have put forth, this documentary is not about making you believe Michael Jackson is a pedophile. Many people already wrongly believe that, but if you watch the documentary, and I don't recommend to, you will truly see the underlying message of this film. They are not only testifying to Michael Jackson's guilt, but also to the fact that these were 2 young boys utterly in love with an adult man.
He would put my fingers on his nipples and tell me to squeeze them. Mom wouldn't react to that like it felt good. I liked the feeling that was making him happy, that was pleasing him. And then Michael pulling my pants and my underwear down, pulling them off. And he's down there with his mouth on my 7-year-old penis. Quickly it turned into having me perform oral sex on him too. I mean, to be honest and to be graphic about it, a full adult grown man size penis in my mouth, in a little 7-year-old's mouth. I don't have any unpleasant memories other than not being able to pee. The tour was the start of this sexual, couple relationship.
And enjoying unadulterated sex with him. The words coming out of these men's mouths are fine detailed explanations of pedophilic experiences. It's simply not something that anybody should be watching. And as many have already said, this film would not have come out had Michael Jackson been alive. If you are to accept the notions that the allegations are true, then you are accepting the notion of healthy pedophilia as a whole. You will be accepting the notion that a child can fall in love with an adult and consent to sexual intercourse, which they can't. That's what these men are saying, that they consented, that they were dating him. If you read Victor Gutierrez's book about Jordy Chandler, titled Michael Jackson Was My Lover, you will quickly find that this book is a pedophilic book, pedophile erotica. This is not something that many people like to talk about, but in recent years, there has been a steady rise of pedophilia in our world. They are meeting and chatting in dark web websites where their IP addresses can't be tracked, and congregating on places like Twitter and YouTube. They have truly found a home here, and the number is growing.
This one in particular, who used "it's a sexuality," is actually on record deadass saying a real-life child wasn't their type. All children shouldn't be your type.
Whether they shouldn't be your type or not is not the question. The question is whether they are. The point is whether they are sexually attracted to someone. What don't you get about this?
There is a subset or community, I guess would be an accurate descriptor, here on YouTube of people who are straight up pedophiles. They're just pedophiles, and they make videos endorsing, celebrating, and excusing sexual acts between adults and children.
I feel like, society's like really, really like harsh on, anyone who is sexually attracted to kids. And, it kind of bugs me, like, everyone is just, like, so quick to judge. I think it would be really cool if, like, we could be more open about sex as a society, like, with kids.
They are having the audacity now to come out of their shadows, and even having TED Talks about their fetish. And why is that? It's because of documentaries like this one that tries to entertain the idea that a child can be sexual in any form or manner. It's disgusting. It is lies, and it is lies with an agenda. They will try and make it some sort of a reasonable thing. That's what this documentary does. That's what it's trying to do. Pedophilia is not and will never be a reasonable thing. Whether you believe Michael Jackson is guilty or not is irrelevant.